The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. It's a prequel to The Hunger Games based on the book about President Snow's rise to power. So we follow a young Coriolanus Snow played by Tom Blythe. Of course, he is not yet the president. Instead, he serves as the mentor of Lucy Gray, played by Rachel Zegler, who is one of the tributes participating in the Hunger Games. This movie revolves around the 10th annual Hunger Games, which takes place 64 years before the events of the first film. So some of the technological advancements haven't occurred yet, so the battle is actually a lot more primitive. It was really interesting seeing how the Hunger Games evolved from being basically a free-for-all pit fight into the big commercial event that we see it become. Of course, if you were hoping for the same spectacle that we got from the Jennifer Lawrence movies, then you're probably setting yourself up for disappointment. The games are also not what this movie culminates with. We actually see a lot more go down afterward. This being very early on in the history of the Hunger Games, they have yet to become the hit show that we see them as in the original movies. So the founder, Casca Highbottom, played by Peter Dinklage, tells the mentors to get their tributes to focus more on providing spectacle than winning. Kind of a hard thing to sell, in my opinion. Hey, I know you're fighting for your life out there, but can you whip your hair around while you do it? So I thought the majority of the cast was fine. I've accepted that I do have a bit of a bias for older actors over younger ones. I say that because the standouts for me personally were Viola Davis and Peter Dinklage. Despite them just playing supporting characters, they were the ones who, whenever they were on screen, I would become just that much more interested in what was happening, especially Peter Dinklage. I wasn't crazy about some of the other tributes, but there are still some great moments with some of them. There's one scene in particular where a tribute makes a big visual statement in the game that serves as both a moment of respect for the other players, but also a big middle finger to the Capitol, and I thought that scene was just beautiful. So my main issue with the Hunger Games overall is that the dialogue and performances sometimes just feel a little bit overdramatic, almost even Shakespearean. And I totally get that this takes place in a fictional dystopian world, and therefore the characters don't necessarily need to be realistic with their dialogue or their demeanor, just because that's the vibe of the source material. Of course, it just boils down to taste, and perhaps this flavor just isn't for me. Also, the romance between the two leads did not feel very organic. A romance typically starts with some amount of chemistry, but it's another movie that just goes, oh, he's a guy and she's a girl. Of course they're supposed to be together, no one will question this. I get that Snow is helping her, but for them to show interest in one another beyond that, you would think that we would see some amount of them getting to know each other. The cinematography of this movie is exactly what you'd expect from a modern big budget spectacle film. It's often really good, but it does sometimes get a little bit trigger happy with the extreme close-ups, especially on the same two character emotions, ruthless and scared. Overall, this movie kept me entertained, but not necessarily captivated. It's an acceptable movie, even decent, but it did not fully deliver, especially in the end where I do strongly feel that we were just left hanging a little bit. So it's fine. I respect the film for what it is, and I got something out of it, but I'll probably be forgetting about it within a few weeks. So this movie is for the fans. If you personally subscribe to the Hunger Games world, then you certainly don't need my review to convince you to go see it. But if you do, yeah, you should totally go see it. But if you are not a Hunger Games fan and your friends invited you to go see it, then you might get something out of it if somebody fills you in on some of the details, but you're really not missing out if you skip this one. Thank you for watching this review. If it brought you any value at all, or if you found it entertaining, please give it a like. It really does help the channel grow. I'll see you later this week with my reviews of Next Goal Wins and Napoleon.